Bitcoin, of course, on the move. Is the shakeout over? We'll break it down for you guys today. Trading with Evan Aldo. You do not want to miss it. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. We'll jump right in. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is iTrust Capital. Get into long-term crypto holdings and do it in an IRA. You can join iTrust Capital. Set up your IRA in Bitcoin, Ethereum, an array of altcoins, whatever you like, and it's very easy to do. All you have to do is just visit itrustcapital.com. You can bring over an existing IRA or start a new one, so it's very simple to get going. All you have to do is click the link down below, get a $100 funding reward if you decide to go that direction. All right, let's bring in Mr. Evan Aldo, coming in from Southeast Asia. How are you, Mr. Evan, today?
Great to be on. Really excited.
Yeah. What time is it there? Yeah.
It's only midnight. It's only midnight. So
yeah,
not
okay.
too late. Yeah, we're just getting started.
That's early. You're getting ready to go out to dinner, right?
Oh yeah. I have a little hunger right now. Gonna get some food after. Bangkok never stops. So
That's
yeah, a little
right.
October surprise we're seeing. A little start to October, a little October surprise. We'll see what happens. But yeah, exciting time for crypto.
Bitcoin traders are stressing a bullish market while the price, of course, hit around 60K. A couple of points within this article. Rec Capital said Bitcoin no stranger to 60, returning to test it from above, no reason for cold feet. When you look at the charts right now, Evan, and you think about these kind of pullbacks that we've had back to 60, 59, and in below that, is this one of those periods right now where you think Bitcoin is done with the shakeout, or is this just the beginning of this fallback?
So, I mean, we got to be objective here. I'll show you the charts, what I'm looking at, at the moment when we go our Bitcoin chart. Let's look at what we've done the whole year, essentially. This was March, this was April, all these, you just look at all these areas where Bitcoin on this trend line where Bitcoin has hit off. And it looks similar to that area. And every single time you've generally, come down quite a bit. So if we follow that, assuming we can't keep 60K, we're at 60.2 right now, which is, kind of tough right here. So assuming we can't keep that, you'd probably fall lower. And then if we look at our 3-day right here, I mean, you have to be objective with this. You have money flow, curving down, still in the red. You got a trigger wave right there, similar to this situation on market cipher B right here. Look at this drop down. I don't think it's going to be that catastrophic, but my guess is that we probably bottomed out at that 49, but you could see, another drop down to like that 53, 54, which is going to be a huge area, especially this pocket right here, which I think this will be a perfect place to scare a lot of people away. And then, that's our October surprise. We hit that bottom, and then kind of after the election into early next year, we have a gradual increase. And I think you could make a new all-time high, hopefully by February, March, April of next year. That's my main, estimation right now. Now, on the more bullet, if we look at some other things here that will, kind of serve to strengthen that argument that we could lose 60K. I mean, money flow, been in the green for a while, finally coming into the red. These usually don't lie. I mean, you were in the red for a while here, you jumped up, you came up quite a bit. Same thing here. You came from green to red back here in August, on August 31st, came down a good amount. I don't think it's going to be extremely catastrophic, but 52K is absolutely possible here. And I think you may see that sometime this month, early next month, the latest. And then maybe around that next Fed pivot, is where we'll see some more light at the end of the tunnel here, and we'll strive for new all-time highs early next year. So.
All right. Well, if that were the case, it means we could have a red October. It's very possible based on the current trends.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Looking at your tweet right here, just a hunch, might stay rather range bound until the election. I feel like market is waiting to see who wins. So some sideways red month still in play here. I want to kind of throw an idea at you, Evan. I know this is going to be very contrarian, but you look at where the market is right now, and it has reached that top. We've had a couple of cycles that we've seen similar trajectories. Is it possible that this bull runs over?
Anything is possible, but I think the odds of that are pretty low. I think that unless you think the U.S. is going into a recession, unless, I mean, there's people talking about on Twitter, maybe Trump wins and they just dump everything on Trump. I think that's a little bit whimsical to think that, that you have to be more of a pessimist to be in that camp. You have to think this is the first time where we don't follow the 4-year cycle. You have to think this is the first time where the Fed, is more responsible and doesn't inject enough money into the system as soon as the littlest of scary things happen. So you have to be you have to think things are going to change dramatically than what we've seen since Bitcoin was kind of created, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, I like the fact that you're still a bit bullish here. I want to play a clip for you. This is CNBC talking about how the markets could range on into the elections. Take a look.
They're anxious, and separating politics from personal finance can be difficult for many people, particularly this election season. A new poll finds nearly a quarter of adults say the outcome of the presidential election will determine whether they're rich or not, and half believe the election outcome will directly impact their personal finances. While the election adds another degree of uncertainty to the markets, financial advisors say you shouldn't let it derail your long-term investment strategy. Instead, you should be focusing on your asset allocation and your goals, whether you're on track to meet them, and supercharge savings in your workplace retirement plans and individual retirement accounts. Also, of course, stay invested. The markets can be volatile around election, but historically generate positive returns over time.
All right. So basically, it sounds like this is a possibly, area where we could see some accumulation, possibly some acquisition of certain, asset classes in general. So that I think it still is kind of a wait and see moment right now with what we're seeing in the general markets. I want to jump over to Ethereum real quick. Big news on this. This is Vitalik talking about lowering the Ethereum solo staking requirement. The idea is pretty simple. And the concept is going to where we would be coming down from a 32 requirement, 32 ETH requirement, possibly cutting that in half to around 16 or even 24. If that were to happen, the likelihood is we could see a lot more staked ETH get active into the total value locked into Ethereum, which of course would continue to drive the price up, or would drive the price up. If you look at the ETH chart right now, Evan, is that kind of your position, or do you feel like ETH is still in a position where it's a little bit weaker against Bitcoin?
So yeah, I mean, I looked at that article. I think the goal was, if I'm not mistaken, by the end of the year to kind of early next year, end of the year, to have those things kind of happen. So I think that that won't really be factored in until it really happens, which I think will happen within a few months. So in the short term, we have to be objective. I mean, you just look here on your 3-day, money flows going back deeper into the red here. You have a blood diamond here on market cipher A. Last two, it's not the most catastrophic thing in the world, but this probably, it doesn't look like we're going to hold this big area at around 2,300. It looks like you're probably going to go back and retest maybe the lows at 2,150. Maybe if they really want, to really scare a lot of people away, the 2,000 mark is going to be really huge. I'm sure that's a huge liquidity pool if things get really volatile this month, especially with the election coming up and all that. So I do think there's a possibility of kind of that area. But then light at the end of the tunnel, once we do hit that, I think you're going to gradually and nicely recover, into next year, and, hopefully get back up to these highs, 4,000 or more sometime. And, if we follow this trajectory, March, April of next year, and then into the second half of next year, making new all-time highs, getting up to that 6,000, that 7,000, these really big areas up there is kind of what I'm looking at. And, similar to kind of Bitcoin, if we look at some of the lower time frames here, especially the 6 hour, I mean, usually money flow doesn't lie too much. You're coming into the red right here, similar, the opposite of when you had red to green, came up a lot. Same thing here, came down.
Yeah.
These usually don't lie. Now, in the short term, we could jump up a little bit. These are linear spider lines. Just think of them as trend lines if you're not too familiar with them. I could see, maybe a scalp long or something, a jump up to maybe these areas. But in all likelihood, I could be wrong, anything could happen, but in all likelihood, I do think you'll fall down and probably retest, these lower areas sometime this month. But I think it's a great, great buying opportunity. And the last thing I'll show you on Ethereum really quickly is ETH versus Bitcoin. This is Ethereum versus Bitcoin, which has been down for a long time now. Don't get too afraid, down 53% for a while, hitting a big area right here. I think we're getting close to this kind of bottom. Maybe one more kind of drop down to this area, middle to later this month, and then kind of recovering, from that. So that would be another, 3% drop down against Bitcoin. We're getting there. And then maybe with the election, maybe with the next Fed rate cut, that's what symbolizes the bottom on Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So I think it's a huge buying opportunity. Don't get too afraid if we come, down to 2,000 again. I think that's a huge area.
In this cycle, Ethereum has been one of those tokens that everybody has struggled with. There's many people threatening, I'm done with Ethereum, etc. And if you look at it, and if we do see Ethereum start to regain, what is the potential of seeing more people shaking out of Ethereum as it starts to recover? And kind of hear me out. Right now, we possibly could see a 2K, ETH here in the next maybe 30, 45 days.
Sure.
If ETH were to rebound and get back to its high for this cycle, which is around 4K, do you think we'd see a lot of exits there as opposed to trying to wait ETH out and not alternatively push that investment maybe into another token that's moving a little bit more aggressively? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say in the 4-year cycle, when you look at how things normally go, probably not, because once you probably get into next year with the way the 4-year cycle works, once you get up to those highs, you may see some retail, some people that have held for a while are going to sell. There's going to be corrections,
that's a good
obviously,
point.
but that's the thing too. Like you'll see a lot of people exit at 4K, but then it goes up to maybe 6, 7, 8K after that. It's not the worst idea in the world to be. You still made money if you got in at 2K or whatever. But generally, it will go higher, and the 25 could be generally a very straight up and to the right year, I think.
One other thing I want to hit in, and that of course, and we'll do a video on this, is XRP. The community kind of got slapped in the face yesterday with the appeal. So there is a notice of appeal of Judge Torres's ruling. The SEC kind of dropped this a little bit early because remember we had the October 7th date. We're still speculating in our own research team as to what does this mean by the SEC. There are some things that we will reveal on an upcoming video. So you guys stick around if you're catching this after. Make sure and watch our XRP video coming up. But XRP as an asset right now, what is your position today?
Oh man, I mean, I think it's like if it follows Bitcoin downward, it'll probably go downward. Let me show you the chart here on XRP. So right here, it's the same kind of thing we were looking at Ethereum, kind of that blood diamond of the 3-day. I mean, if we just zoom out here, this thing does literally nothing. It's either probably going to break upward or break downward here. Given with the October, how October is looking to be a more bearish month, I would think the odds are that you would break downward and hit around 36 cents, which is still generally what we've done for a long time, just stay boring, for the last 2 years, essentially. So that's my view on it, hit this area. I think that most likely they'll win that appeal or whatever. I don't think it's going to be too catastrophic for XRP. I mean, I think, you're eventually probably going to hit this major trend line right here. If we kind of draw it out like that, which would be at least low dollars, 98 cents, a dollar, kind of this area. You probably at least hit this, I would say mid, early to Q2, Q3 of 2025. I would be looking at that. And I think if you can break above a dollar, you're looking at potentially that $2 mark, these areas for a high. XRP, it's a very boring thing. I wouldn't bet too much on it because it's just so boring. I think there's much more money that'll go into more newer altcoins, more things that, people are more excited about rather than something that, it feels like a boomer coin at this point. It's, people excited from 2017 back here. We're growing old, waiting for this to do something. You know what I mean?
All right, well, let's move on to some newer coins then. And let's talk a little about Axelar. We did a full video on this yesterday, or I think the day before. And it was a full rundown on the impact Axelar is going to have out there in the market. If you look at Axelar right now, and then we'll kind of look at SUI as well, give me a rundown on where you think Axelar took a nice move today on just the Coinbase chart.
Yeah, let's take a look. So Axelar right here it's an interesting one. I think it looks better than a lot of the market at the moment. I mean, you keep kind of making some higher lows here, which isn't the best thing, but you're getting kind of this jump off of this area. So we've really been consolidating here. And when you kind of zoom out here, this is kind of like that reverse head and shoulder situation. So I think that eventually you're going to break upward from this and get up to my target at $1.16. Now, it could take some time to double. Definitely could take some time to double. You do have a trigger wave on the 20-hour though, so it does, it does look pretty good here. I think you're going to get up to that 84 cent within a couple months. 116 probably early next year would be my target. Maybe November, December at the earliest. I think it overall looks pretty good. In the very short term, kind of hazy, but yeah, this looks better than a lot of the market. This could be kind of a lone wolf if everything else kind of comes down. This does look pretty good. This looks better than a lot of other things. Keep in mind, it's a smaller market cap. They could be harder to kind of predict here. I'm trying to find if there's really anything that bearish right now. Nothing too bad other than this trigger wave here on the 3-day, maybe coming back down to 54 cents or something, but I'm not seeing anything too bad. So yeah.
Well, one of the things they have done is they officially launched the Mobius development stack, which is getting basically make it more interoperable with some other chains, including Sui, Stellar, XRP. So all of that is possibly one of the reasons we see a little bit of movement right now on Axelar. It is a token I hold. I'm very interested in this one, for more of a long-term vision of where this is going. I want to go over to AAVE for a second, and then we'll come back to Sui in a minute. But I want to go over to AAVE, and of course, news everybody was aware of is Grayscale launching the AAVE fund. With AAVE right now, this could be one of those plays, especially around lending on Ethereum, that could get some action. With that being the case, what does the chart show you right now in terms of trading on this one?
AAVE's looking decent, not too bad compared to a lot of the rest of the market right now. So the big place that we want to kind of hold here is $131. Pretty big area, that rejection back in March of 24. We kind of want to stay above that area, hold that area, which is going to be big. This has done, remarkably very well. When you zoom out here, this looks still very good on your 2-week. It's a macro time frame though with the trigger wave, so it could take a little bit of time to play out. I mean, I could see a retest of $1.30, or excuse me, $130. The big place is going to be also $113 if we do see a very red October for these markets. But I think you got a good shot of definitely getting up to $258. Hopefully Q2, Q3 of next year, maybe even a little bit earlier. But I think that's a huge place for the very long term on this. I mean, you got a decent shot at new all-time highs. I mean, $1,000. I mean, it's pushing it a little bit. But if you do make new all-time highs, I mean, that could be not a 10x coin from here, but 500, 600% is definitely possible here. So I think there's a lot of potential, like you mentioned, a lot of good fundamentals too. Short term, I mean, you're trying to hold this area, you just got to hold this area. I wouldn't get too afraid if you come down to 113. Wouldn't get too afraid.
Yeah,
if you come down to 113.
yeah. So you do see more of a potential long term on AAVE. If you look at Chainlink and you compare to what they're doing, obviously their partnership with Swift, they're set to begin their live bank trials now with digital asset transactions coming up in just a few months. And then you look at even what's going on with Axelar. What do you think about Chainlink in general in terms of as more of a long-term investment here?
Yeah, Chainlink is great. I mean, I really like Chainlink from a fundamental standpoint. Long-term investment, I think we're going to do very well. I'll show you kind of some long-term, the long-term stuff first. I mean, this looks extraordinarily well on the 2-week. Now, keep in mind, this could take 2 weeks to, we could keep going down and hit a bottom in 2 weeks, kind of based on this. And you could get that green dot in the next candle. So October 21, maybe even early November, you could get that. And I think that for a more of a long-term perspective, my big target, 81, is the first place I want to hit if we make a new all-time high here. After that, I would have a goal. Really, I don't think you're going to get up to 200. That would be pretty crazy. But maybe a 12x is possible, maybe. But my big place is going to be an 8x at $80. More the short term, though, it is, we got to be objective in the short term. It is a bit concerning here in the 3-day, 4-day as well. You do have here. It didn't play. Here it was not really a bearish sign. You came up higher, but then you came down here. I do think you got a good shot at retesting $9.40 all the way down to maybe $8.70. But after that, I do think you should be able to continue forward here. I mean, the place we're hitting right now is the first place where we could potentially jump up off of. But in terms of your money flow, I'm not seeing what I want to see, just yet. Could be wrong, but I think we probably will retest some of the lows here. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people still very supportive of Chainlink's technology, global financial, replacement of Swift. And then this has been going on for quite some time. Swift's been around for a long time. So the potential here is real. So if they do, truly become the first RWA, I think that would be interesting, especially related to Swift. So I don't know. But at the same time, it's so early in the, I guess, the financial revolution and the kind of tech we're going to see. You could still have another chain come in and kind of sweep out the thunder, even though Chainlink has been building on this for quite some time. And these are big partnerships too, no doubt, for sure. So it's going to going to be one to watch. I want to
Yeah,
jump
I mean,
over
that could be said for any altcoin. I mean, that could be said for anything. It's all about diversification, you know.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying because what's happening now in this bull run is
Mhm.
we're starting to see secondary chains challenge kind of the incumbents. You know, if you look at
Mm,
Solana and Sui,
right.
you know, Sui's they're making a play, and there's a community behind it. If you look at
Mm,
maybe where Axelar is going and what Chainlink is doing, there's others, you know, out there when you look at these oracles.
sure.
So that in itself, I think, is kind of interesting. Avalanche, of course, kind of plays into many of these RWAs, and also within the gaming sector, which has never been the scenario. We thought ETH was going to be the gaming coin, then we thought Solana was going to be the gaming token.
Mm,
So it's been moving
sure.
around a little bit, and I think that's been, you know, the technology advancements that have just happened in this most recent building cycle that we've had, which everybody's been building like crazy.
Right.
Let's jump over to
Exactly.
Sui, and I want to get your opinion. So I do want to look at Sui as a whole, but I also want to look at the meme coin, the primary meme coin on Sui, which is BLUB. And if you guys
Hmm.
think about, every chain has their iconic meme coin. I would say Kakinu probably with Avalanche. You'd probably have to go with, you know, you look at Doge, you look at Pepe, you look at you know, what else? WIF over on Solana. So
Mm.
there's always that one winner, but I'm kind of curious with Sui and BLUB, if you were playing either or and you wanted to get a little more aggressive, how would you do that? What do the charts look like between those two?
So yeah, I mean, if the first thing I'll say is if we're in more of a potential bearish month and things are looking not too strong, I would go with the main one and not the meme
Yeah.
coin. I would go with Sui. However, in maybe 2 to 4 weeks after the next Fed rate cut, I'd probably go with the meme coin after that blurb.
Okay.
So
BLUB.
the big
Yeah.
thing on Sui is, or blub, excuse me. So the big thing on Sui right here is, you hit this place, big area we're hitting right now. That's your kind of your high of the year right here, huge area. I mean, I would think that you would at least consolidate a little bit here, maybe come back down to $1.50 something, consolidate, and then I think eventually, I think it's, never be too deterministic, but you got a very good shot of at least doubling, by sometime next year, $3, which is going to be a big point. After that, some big fib levels to look at for, all-time highs of this bull run, $5, $6. You could do some stuff here. After that, we'll look. I mean, it could go higher. We'll see what happens, but those are the big places I would look at right now.
Yeah, what about an entry point right now on Sui? Because it has retraced. If you look at the 4-hour retracing down to $1.67, which we haven't seen that all the way back to September 28th, right there on that retracement. But if you look at the next levels in next order blocks setting in there around $1.40, would you go in at say a 140, 145 range?
Yeah, I mean, DCAing makes a lot of sense here. I think that the thing here at like that 145 range is if we look here, there's not much to latch on to until $1.10. So I would be more inclined to buy at 156 here and try to hold that area. But $1.45, you could set limit orders, but the way I do it is most of the time, like look at, we just shot up so fast. There's not much to latch onto. I mean, I see where you're looking at, but it's not, if you're going to really come down, you want to be looking at $1.10, but you could set an order here, 158, then another order at, $1.40, the number you mentioned, the order block, and then 110 would be the really, really big place here, because if you lose 110, that's starting to look, I don't think it's likely that you would lose 110. That would be a big drop down here, over 45% down. So
that would be a monster retracement on Sui. So you would say in the conservative months of what we're dealing with right now, stay with the primary token, wait for a little bit after election and kind of see where the market goes before you go into a degen play like BLUB.
Exactly, and wait for at least one more rate cut, I think.
Yeah, another rate cut. Well, listen, Evan, we're going to get you back in. We'll continue to do our weekly market updates here, and thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Paul. Thanks so much.
You bet. If you guys have not visited Evan Aldo, go over to his YouTube channel, and you can get on there, Evan Aldo. Let me kind of pull up his page here so you guys can see it. He does a real good job on doing not only analysis, but he does a couple of things around training. So if you're maybe getting into training right now, he's got a course over there you can get. Congrats to Evan. He hit 15K on the subs. Nice job, Evan. And he's over 1,000 videos. So go over and subscribe right now to Evan Aldo just over on YouTube. Follow him over there. All right, guys, if you're not in our Diamond Circle, get in. It's a great place to get additional content. And, of course, follow me out there on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.